My mom looked at me and said, "Amber will drive us all to graduation in her new Tesla." I stood there, still unsure how I was getting there myself. In my cap and gown, in the rain, at the bus stop, I stood up and walked out. It wasn't always like this. There was a time somewhere between childhood sticker charts and late-night scholarship essays when I truly believed that if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, made myself small and helpful and reliable enough, they would see me. That someday my parents would look up from Amber and finally say, "We're proud of you, Brooke. My name is Brooke Mitchell. I'm 22 years old, and I have spent nearly every moment of my life as the invisible daughter." We lived in Bellevue, Washington, where the streets are clean, the coffee is expensive, and every house seems curated for a real estate magazine. My father, Ryan, was a senior software developer for a booming tech firm. My mother, Stephanie, was a luxury real estate agent. Our home had 4 bedrooms, a manicured backyard, and a view of Lake Washington from the upstairs deck. People envied our family from the outside, but inside that polished frame, the story was different. Amber, my younger sister, by 3 years, was the center of gravity in our home. Blonde, charismatic, extroverted. She had my mother's social charm and my father's flair for attention. From the moment she could talk, she took up space with ease, and our parents loved it. I was the opposite. Quiet, academic, cautious, always early, always prepared, always backgrounded. I didn't mind it at first. I thought that being the easy child, the one who didn't cause problems, was something to be proud of. But I quickly learned that being low maintenance often translated into being low priority. It started small. When I was 7, I spent weeks building a miniature solar system for the science fair. I won first place in my grade. My parents missed the presentation because Amber had a cold and didn't want to be left alone. That same month, they filmed every second of her preschool ballet recital, including the parts where she wasn't even on stage. I remember showing them my ribbon that evening, chest full of pride. My mom looked up briefly, nodded, then turned back to help Amber build a pillow fort in the living room. "That's nice, honey," she said. "Look how creative your sister is with those cushions." When Amber turned 10, she wanted to repaint her room again. She got new furniture, pastel wall decals, and a white vanity set shaped like a cloud. I was still sleeping on the same twin bed I'd had since kindergarten, with mismatched drawers and a squeaky frame. "We'll upgrade yours soon," my mom always said. "You don't complain, Brooke. You're so easy." By middle school, I stopped expecting anything. When Amber brought home a C+ on her history test, our parents took her out for frozen yogurt to encourage her effort. When I brought home straight A's, they glanced at my report card and said, "That's what we expect from you." My 16th birthday was the real turning point. I asked for something simple, just dinner at my favorite local diner. They gave me a modest meal, a new backpack, and a practical use laptop. I was grateful. I told myself it was enough. 2 years later, Amber turned 16 and they rented a venue, a DJ, a photo booth, 60 of her friends, and at the end of the night, they pulled the curtain to reveal a brand new white Honda Civic with a red bow on the hood. I clapped. I smiled in the pictures. But something inside me went very, very quiet that night. When I mentioned the difference later, gently, my mother laughed. "Oh, sweetie, Amber's more social. This gives her confidence. You've always been independent. You don't need all that." So I told myself I didn't. I used that old laptop to apply for scholarships. I worked weekends at the library through high school. I got into the University of Washington with a partial merit award and moved into a cramped apartment with 3 roommates. I took on part-time shifts to cover groceries and books. My Toyota, the one Dad called a starter car with character, groaned up hills and smelled faintly of burning oil. But I kept it alive with YouTube tutorials and duct tape. Amber, meanwhile, got into the same university with weaker grades. But she moved into premium dorms, joined a sorority, changed her major 3 times, and posted Instagram stories from expensive brunches. My parents paid her full tuition rent and gave her a monthly allowance larger than what I made working 20 hours a week. I kept hoping, quietly, stubbornly, that someday they'd notice. When I got into the honors capstone track, no reaction. When I made the dean's list for the sixth semester in a row, they were too busy helping Amber plan her spring break trip to Palm Springs. But as senior year crept in, I dared to believe that graduation would change everything. I was finishing with a 3.9 GPA, had landed an interview at a prestigious firm in Portland, and had spent 4 years clawing my way towards something they couldn't ignore. Maybe this would be the moment they saw me. Maybe they'd show up early. Maybe they'd be proud. I didn't know then that they had already chosen who they would be proud of. And it wasn't me. The morning of my college graduation began with rain. Not the dramatic kind with thunder and cinematic lightning, just that soft, ceaseless drizzle Seattle is known for. The kind that seeps into your sleeves and shoes, makes the world gray around the edges. I stood in my shared apartment's bathroom, applying mascara under buzzing fluorescent lights, trying to will myself into believing this day would be different. I'd ironed my gown the night before. My cap was pinned in place. The navy blue dress beneath was plain one my mother had insisted I wear weeks ago. Something simple and tasteful. Brooke, you don't want to draw too much attention. I didn't argue. I never really did. My roommates had all left, already scooped up by laughing parents in SUVs and sedans with balloons tied to the side mirrors. I waited alone, not because no one was coming, but because no one ever had. I checked my phone. One new message. From Mom. Don't forget we're meeting at the main entrance at 12:30. Amber wants to take a few pictures with her new Tesla. No congratulations. No, we're so proud of you. Just Amber, her car, her moment. Again. I slipped my phone into my coat pocket, heart heavy in a way I couldn't quite explain. I had done everything right. Everything. And yet somehow the day still belonged to her. 3 blocks to the bus stop. My boots splashed through puddles as I clutched my umbrella in one hand and my cap in the other. By the time I arrived, my gown was already damp at the hem. My makeup felt too formal, my chest too hollow. Cars passed. Some honked, one slowed. Inside, I spotted Rachel and David, 2 classmates from my marketing program, laughing with their families in the back seat of a Lexus. Rachel waved. I waved back quickly before turning away. I didn't want her to see me like this. Taking the bus. To my own graduation. While my family paraded around in Amber's new Tesla. The same Tesla I hadn't been supposed to know about. Until I walked in on them that afternoon just days ago, talking about leather interiors and self-driving features, smiling like Amber had cured cancer with her 3.1 GPA. They didn't even look guilty. In fact, when I dared to ask if maybe we could talk about my graduation, my mom waved me off like I was interrupting a commercial break. Brooke, can we talk about this later? Your father and I are heading out to look at something special for Amber. I had walked away that day feeling like I'd been gutted quietly. No screaming, no slamming doors, just a slow leak of disappointment. At the bus stop, a voice broke my spiral. You graduating today, dear. I turned to see an elderly woman seated on the bench. She wore a long raincoat and clutched a floral umbrella with both hands. Her eyes were kind, crinkled with time. Yes, I replied, trying to sound cheerful. University of Washington. She nodded, smiling. I graduated from nursing school in '62, took the bus too. My parents missed it. My brother had a baseball game. Funny how some things don't change. I don't know why, but her words hit like a warm cup of tea. I didn't know I needed. I sat beside her. My name's Doris, she added. You look beautiful. Thank you, I whispered, blinking fast. I hope your people treat you better than mine did. But if they don't remember their failure to see your worth, doesn't mean it isn't there. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just sat beside her under the canopy of her faded umbrella as the rain softened around us. When the bus finally arrived, the driver opened the doors with a creak and smiled when he saw me. Congratulations, he said, waving away my fare. It's on me today. I almost cried. Inside, a woman in scrubs offered me her seat. A young boy pointed at my cap and whispered, Look, Mom, she's a graduate. An older man in the back started clapping softly. Others joined in, strangers, kind strangers. Who saw me? I sat in the front seat, pressed my hands into my lap, and let their warmth fill a hole that had been gaping for years. The bus rumbled forward, and then my phone buzzed. Amber, OMG, the Tesla is amazing. Mom and Dad are letting me drive everyone to your thing. So excited to show it off. Attached was a photo. Amber in full glam standing beside the gleaming white car, our parents smiling behind her like stage props. I turned the phone face down on my lap. In that moment, something shifted in me. Not rage, not bitterness, just clarity. They were never going to change. They were never going to choose me. Not because I wasn't worthy, but because they had written me into the margins long ago, and I had accepted that role without ever underlining my name. That was on me. But today would be different. The University of Washington's Husky Stadium was dressed for celebration banners, fluttered against a rare clearing sky. Violet robes fluttered like waves in the wind, and proud families lined the steps with bouquets, helium balloons, and phones held high. I found myself scanning the crowd automatically before I could stop myself. They weren't there. Not yet. I walked in alone. Rows of chairs were perfectly lined across the field, each seat bearing a small white card with our names. I found mine, sat, smoothed my robe, tried to pretend I didn't feel the thick lump in my throat. To my left, Clarissa from the campus marketing team had both her parents beside her. Her father held her hand. Her mother cried every time Clarissa looked over. I turned away before I watched too long. The ceremony blurred. Deans made speeches. Names were called. My department head, Dr. Spencer, gave me a subtle nod when it was my turn. "Brooke Elaine Carter," he announced. No cheer followed. But a man 2 rows behind me muttered, "Strong finish." I didn't know him, but that mattered more than he'll ever know. After the official photos, I stepped into the courtyard blinking against the sun, and that's when I saw them. Amber in the center, fresh blowout posing like she was graduating too, Mom fussing with her scarf, Dad fiddling with his phone, Amber's boyfriend Jason leaning against the Tesla with an arm slung casually over the roof. They were laughing. My heart pounded, but I approached. Amber saw me first. "Oh, good, Brooke, you made it," like I'd been the one running late. Then Mom said it, with that voice she used when she was trying to sound supportive, but only made it worse. "Quick, honey, get in for a photo with Amber and the car. This is such a special day for all of us." I blinked. Amber in the car. Not me, not my degree, not my years of grinding through 3 part-time jobs to cover what their support didn't. Not my nights crying quietly in library corners. Not even my name. I stood perfectly still. The sun hit the back of my neck like heat from a judgmental god. Jason lifted his phone. "Say Tesla." The camera clicked. I wasn't even in the frame. Amber turned and said, "Wait, get one of just me and the deans. Mom, can you hold Brooke's bag or something?" And in that moment, I realized something far worse than anger. I wasn't invisible to them. I was useful. The scholarship winner they could name drop, the independent daughter who never needed anything, the quiet one who didn't make trouble, who didn't ask, who didn't exist beyond convenience. "Actually," I said softly, stepping forward, "I'll pass on the photos." Amber looked confused. "Wait, what? Why?" My mother turned to me annoyed. "Brooke, don't ruin this for her. Her, not me." I took a breath, deep, calm. Because this isn't her day, it's mine. And if you can't even acknowledge that, then honestly, don't come. Silence fell. Jason's phone was still raised mid-air. Amber's mouth parted, stunned. My father cleared his throat like he was about to speak, but I didn't give him the space. I turned, gown trailing behind me. Steps deliberate. Behind me, I heard Mom gasp, "You're overreacting." I didn't turn back. Let them stand there. Let them have their photo. Let them drive away in a Tesla they bought for the child they chose to see. I hailed a cab. It was the most expensive $48 I ever spent, and the most worth it. In that cab staring out the window at the city I had conquered on my own, I whispered something I hadn't dared say aloud until that moment. You don't get to erase me anymore. For the next 4 months, I didn't speak to them. No texts, no calls, no emails, no birthdays. Nothing. And you know what they didn't notice? Not a single message from Mom asking how my job hunt was going. Not one check-in from Dad about my lease renewal. Not even Amber sending her usual mass selfie about her influencer brand deal with micro-celebs that somehow always ended up with me covering her taxes in April. Silence. Blessed, terrible, clarifying silence. I moved into a studio apartment near Capitol Hill, 4th floor. No elevator chipped paint and the sound of buses groaning at the stop below. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The first morning I sat on the bare floor with a coffee I could barely afford, stared at the unpacked boxes, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. There was no one knocking, no one texting guilt. No, can you swing by to help Amber with her resume? No, your father feels like you're drifting away from the family. I was away. I wasn't drifting, I'd cut the line. In that quiet, I began something else. I rebuilt my resume this time with truth, not just the jobs and grades. I included every freelance consulting gig I'd done for free, every marketing pitch Amber had passed off as hers that I'd actually written. I reclaimed the fragments. Then I submitted applications. Dozens. Carefully tailored. Rejections came. Some ignored me completely. Some said impressive but not a culture fit. Some ghosted, until one didn't. A quiet 2-line email from a woman named Selene DeHart. Subject reapplication. Brand Ops Associate message. Let's talk. Wednesday, 3 p.m. I Googled her. Founder of Hail and Signal, a boutique strategic brand firm based in Seattle. Known for discretion high-impact launches and fixing messes for the powerful. I nearly dropped my coffee. I went. In slacks that didn't quite fit and a blouse with one missing button I fixed with tape. I stepped into their glass headquarters palms, sweating. Selene didn't offer small talk. She just slid my resume back to me and said, "This doesn't match your LinkedIn, but it matches someone who's survived." I said nothing. She smiled. "I don't want the polished version. I want the one who learned silence isn't weakness." And just like that, I was in. The first few weeks were brutal. 70-hour weeks. Midnight edits, clients with egos too big to fit through doors. But for the first time, my mind was alive. My voice mattered, and I didn't owe anyone outside that office. Not Amber, not Mom, not Dad. One day, Selena pulled me aside after I navigated a particularly messy media scandal for a senator's daughter. "You ever think of leading your own division?" I blinked. "Me?" She laughed. "Brooke, you're the calm in chaos. That doesn't go unnoticed." And something shifted in me. The years of being the silent one, the forgotten one, the bus stop and the rain daughter, they weren't shameful. They were the proof, the receipts. That night, I walked past the luxury dealership where Amber's Tesla had come from. I didn't go in. I didn't need to. I was building something better. And this time, my name would be on it. It was Amber's engagement party. The invitation came in a group text I hadn't responded to in over a year. Hey all, officially saying yes to Jason Biggs' celebration at the Bellevue Club. Come dressed to impress, no boring work fits. Brooke, don't flake. No direct text. No call. No how have you been. Just a command from someone who still assumed I was sitting somewhere waiting for scraps of inclusion. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I RSVP'd attending. Why? Because I was no longer the Brooke they remembered. 3 weeks later, I arrived alone. No +1. No grand entrance. Just a matte black car. A sharp black pantsuit heels that clicked with purpose. And a name that had, unbeknownst to them, started showing up in discreet industry whispers. The ballroom shimmered with soft golden lighting. Champagne towers. An ice sculpture that read, A+J forever. Ambient jazz music that reeked of curated wealth. I saw them before they saw me. Amber was in white satin twirling for an audience of mutual friends and brand reps. My parents were at the bar laughing with Jason's family. A slideshow projected images of Amber at every stage baby in a bonnet homecoming queen graduation in front of my university logo. I stood alone in the back, watching. And then everything shifted. The murmurs started first. Is that... Wait, I think that's her. From the far corner, a woman in a navy gown approached me, confident and unbothered by the clique of influencers hovering near Amber's photo wall. "Excuse me, are you Brooke Carter?" I nodded, cautious. She extended her hand. "Janine Holloway, VP of Partnerships at Meridian Financial. I saw your work on the Kepler rebrand. It was surgical, powerful. My CMO would very much like to speak with you." My heart stopped for a beat, but my face didn't change. I'd be happy to connect. As we shook hands, Jason walked by holding a tray of glasses. He froze, literally stopped mid-stride. "Wait, Brooke?" I gave him a neutral smile. "Evening." He blinked, trying to process the version of me, standing in front of him, composed, styled, and clearly respected. Behind him, Amber spotted us and stormed over. "Oh my God, you actually came. I was so sure you'd ghost. Still doing marketing stuff." Before I could reply, Janine tilted her head. "Amber Wright, Brooke's sister. You must be so proud. I've followed Hale and Signal's strategic turn since Brooke's promotion. That social equity project, brilliant." Amber's lips parted, but no words came out. Jason coughed awkwardly. Janine smiled politely. "If you'll excuse us, I just invited Brooke to an off-site this weekend. You're still available, right?" I nodded. "Of course." Then Janine added something casually, something that sliced the air like a scalpel. "You know, I always assumed Brooke was the one from the family everyone talked about. I see I was mistaken." Amber's face fell. My parents watching from the bar had gone stone still. I turned to Amber. "Congratulations, by the way. You and Jason look well lit," and walked away. For the first time in my life, they didn't know what to say. Not a demand, not a dismissal, not a condescending comment about being too serious or intense or self-important. They were quiet, because the room had shifted, and this time the spotlight wasn't theirs to control. I never sent them a letter. Not when the Hale and Signal board approved my promotion to strategy director. Not when Forbes did a quiet profile on the woman behind Seattle's most effective political messaging firm. Not when I moved into my townhome, paid in full 2 blocks from the very country club Amber once told me I'd never afford to park at. I didn't send one when our mother reached out 6 months later with a voice note that began, "Hey, sweetie. I know things have been a little weird, but Amber's brand could really use some polish. Maybe you two can collab like old times." I never responded, because there were no old times, just me carrying the weight, quietly, and then pretending not to see until the weight turned into wings. But one night, months after the engagement party, I sat at my desk and typed a letter anyway, not to send, just to release it. "Dear family, you didn't forget me. You erased me. You used me when convenient, dismissed me when proud, and ignored me when I needed to be seen. But that silence you left me in. That silence became my teacher. It taught me boundaries. It taught me the sound of my own voice when no one else was listening. And it taught me how to build a life that doesn't require your permission to be beautiful. I'm not coming back. I'm not angry. I'm free." Brooke, I never hit print. I just closed the file, saved it under a folder marked unsent but understood, and I've never opened it again. These days, I walk through the world quietly, not because I'm afraid, but because I no longer need to scream to be heard. When people ask me what I do, I tell them I help powerful people speak without ruining everything. They laugh, but I don't, because once I was the invisible daughter. Now I am the woman you don't see coming until your whole room listens when I speak. And every time someone says, "Brooke, you're so calm under pressure," I smile and think, you don't know the storms I survived to become this quiet. Have you ever been the invisible one in your own family? The one who worked in silence, loved without being seen, gave without being asked, only to be forgotten. The moment you needed to be chosen. Tell me your story in the comments, because this space, it's for the ones who were left out and still chose to rise. And if this hit close to home, like, subscribe, not just for more stories like this, but because sometimes healing begins when you finally realize you were never the problem. You were just too powerful for the wrong room.